Deborah. Oh, and she's gone. Hey, Joyce, how are you?
Great. How are you doing?
Great.
You had a
Just,
good Thanksgiving?
I did. It was actually pretty low key this year, which was nice. We did not host, which was the first time we have not hosted in probably 4 or 5 years. So it was relaxing. How about you?
Same. There were 15 people,
Okay.
and then we had 2 butterfly turkeys barbecue. Those were delicious.
Wow. Look at that.
Yeah, a little too much turkey there.
We are like an anti-turkey family. We are
Really?
yeah, it's a Jewish Italian combination. And so it's pretty much like for Thanksgiving lasagna and prime ribs. So
So the
it's
Jewish part is the prime rib, right?
it's more honestly the Denver, Colorado part. That's I'm the prime rib side.
That's cute.
But yeah,
Well,
it was a good
I'm
time.
Jewish, but we love our turkey and chicken.
That makes sense.
Cackle, cackle. Okay, signing off.
No worries. Great to see you here today. And Deborah, no worries. I saw your message in the chat. All right. Deborah, put in the chat, where in Denver are you? Because I'm born and raised Denver. I'm just curious what area you specialize in. Okay, you're Greenwood Village. Nice. Yeah, 225 and I-25. I used to live right there off of South Parker and 225. I also owned property out in Commerce City when it first was there. In fact, one of my first real estate jobs was I opened the Stapleton development for Forest City when you first clocked in. Oh, nice. Yeah, I know right where that is. Fabulous.
What's the weather like there now?
It's about 30 degrees today. Pretty chilly. 30 degrees. I mean it's a nice day. It's it's sunny out, but it's cold today. Can you guys hear me okay? No background fuzziness or
Not at all.
good. Good. We'll give it a few minutes as everybody jumps in here. Everybody likes to jump in right at 11:30. So Deborah, who were you with before you joined Compass? Just curious. Remax Masters. Awesome. Cool. I used to do stuff for Remax Corporate back in the day.
Yeah, it was a great office.
Yeah,
master's office.
It was a whole bunch of really good brokers there, in fact.
Yeah, we were the single #1 office in the country with like 110 brokers.
Yeah, I used to do a lot with the Boulder office. I had a real estate company, which was a Metro Brokers franchise up in kind of like the northern Denver area, and then I was a part of. I merged that with the Nordbys. I don't know if you know Scott.
Yeah, Scott Norby.
Yeah, so Scott and Laura have been good friends of mine for a really long time. I ran their commercial division when it first opened, out of their Denver office, and then I was licensed with them until Gosh, until I moved to New York in 2011. So
Yeah. Yep.
here comes some other people. Hey, Brian. What
Hi,
you
good
doing, Wayne?
morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Wayne Miller. Hello from San Diego. Love it. Mike Rivers in Boston. What's going on?
Hey, good morning. How was your weekend?
Oh, not too bad. Nice little holiday stint. Pretty low key for us on the New York side. How about you?
It's great, you know. The weather here is pretty nice, I have to say.
San
I'm not
Diego
trying
is
to
where
brag, but it
no,
is.
everybody loves San Diego weather. It is as I was mentioning earlier, it's 30 degrees in New York right now. I'm sure it's cold up in Boston where Mike is. I know, in fact, someone this morning was in Miami and it was 50 degrees in Miami. So it's chilly in Miami today too. Rob Lane, welcome back, Austin, Texas. How you doing, my friend?
Doing well. How are y'all?
Excellent, excellent. We'll probably give everybody about 2 minutes and we'll get started about 11:32 here for everybody. All right. Rita, hello. Cherish, oh, what's up? How you doing from Denver? Awesome. I was just talking to Deborah. I'm born and raised Denver. So practiced real estate there for a long time. Let's see here. Denver, California. Ryan Blaser, hello also. Dan Whitaker. All right, as people are jumping in here, guys, I'll give them about another minute and then we will kick off. We're going to talk everything about prospecting today. I've got a little presentation I'm going to share with you guys as well. I'll give you guys some time for some dialogue. If you joined us for our 9:30 a.m. session, we talked a lot about just different various avenues that people find successful when it comes to prospecting. We're going to do the same thing at the 12:30 session today. So if you want to join us for more of a role play dialogue, we're going to talk at 12:30, same topic that we did for our 9:30 a.m. session. Rob, how you doing, my friend? Good to see you. Excellent. Almeida's here. Gwen is here. Christine's back on here. Hello, Christine. Good to see you. Awesome. Cool. All right, so let's just jump in. Prospecting is a big topic, and as we go into 2025, I know a lot of people have reported, having a down year, having a little bit less business, especially if you were the type who has relied on referrals a lot. Referrals are down across the country a little bit. And I think that's just a correlation to just business being down as a whole. Number of transactions, number of buyers, sellers, et cetera, entering the marketplace. But prospecting has become now a topic that everybody is discussing and everybody has interest in because we're preparing for the 2025 year. And so, I'm going to talk today about some important facets when it comes to just the overall, I guess, shift in the mind when it comes to prospecting and looking at prospecting from the right angle. And I want to talk about two of probably the most important facets, which is our conversations and how we expand our social sphere. And then from there, we'll let you guys dialogue today a little bit about just questions that you might have, things that are coming up for you, et cetera. So let me go ahead and share my screen. I did get the question earlier about whether or not this would be something that we could send out. I believe Chirag's assistant can send out all the slides, anything that we have here. So I will make sure that happens. He, by the way, is still, I want to say he's in the air. I think he lands this afternoon from Rome, and he will take back over his normal call sessions starting tomorrow. And so that's the status on Chirag Shah. But let's go ahead and get this presentation wired up for you guys real quick. All right. So key facets to prospecting. Again, if you have questions as we're moving along, put it in the chat for me. Easiest way for you to stop and know that you guys have something. Also, we're not 200 people online. So if you do have a question, you want to just take yourself off mute, you can do that as well. So age-old question. Every single brokerage, we kind of talked about this morning a little bit. Every brokerage out there is constantly trying to fix the same problem. And that is that we're trying to understand how to simplify, how to make it easier, how to make it clearer for agents to get more clients, how to expand their business, how to create more consistency in their revenue. It is something that every single brokerage I have ever worked with, guys, talks about out there. And if you are a unique individual where you have a fairly consistent revenue stream right now, like, we want to hear from you in the chat of what's working and what you feel like you maybe allocate to that success or to that consistency. Okay. But when I look at the facts, the truth is the top producing agents aren't necessarily, these standout, like, rare individuals. There's nothing that necessarily makes them extremely special when it comes to like their knowledge, or they're not super unique in their some sort of superpower. They just simply know how to do two things really, really well. And number one is that they understand how to have conversations about real estate. And we're going to talk about the dynamics of conversation and the approach today, but they understand how to have the conversations. They understand the necessity of the consistency around those conversations. And frankly, they just have more conversations than the next agent when it comes to experience and knowledge and success. The other thing that they do, though, really, really well is that they're able to create new relationships into their sphere of influence. Every single month, every single year, they're constantly expanding. And so if I were to say, okay, line up 100 of your top producing agents right up on a stage, and we were to look for correlations, of course, there would be uniqueness, right? They'd have different specialties, different areas of expertise. They might have a different background. But what you'd start to find that they have in common is each of them have a consistent outreach process. They have a consistent outreach kind of formula for themselves. And they're consistently putting themselves in a position to harvest new relationships. That means that their sphere of influence is getting bigger every single year consistently, so that they always have new business beyond the consistent business that they're able to create within their clientele. And so those are two things that I want to make sure that we talk about today. And I also want to talk about really the formula around phone calls and around outreach, and what has changed over the last decade in regards to just digital outreach, okay, in general. So paralysis. Every time I've sat down and I work with an agent who either has a start and stop income. So like, think about this, if this is you for a minute. There are periods of time where we go and we have a successful quarter, and then the next quarter is slow. And then another successful quarter, and the next quarter is slow. And it stresses a lot of agents out because we go through these periods where we have these starts and stops of business income. And normally what that is equated to is lack of consistency within an outreach or prospecting schedule, right? We get into these mannerisms where we're like, okay, I'm ready to do reach outs, and we go through a whole couple weeks, maybe even a couple months, where we get really, really consistent with our outreach, and that produces some results. But then as we're starting to work with those clients and we start taking them out or listing property, et cetera, our consistency starts to fail. We finish transactions, and then we have to start all over again. This wears us out, right? So one of the things I want to talk about today is some numbers. These are gonna be their target numbers for any real estate professional in regards to how many reach outs should you be aiming to accomplish every week. Keep in mind, a lot of this depends on sphere of influence and how big your list is, et cetera. But how many reach outs you should be aspiring to create to continue to move your business forward on a consistent basis, okay? Other reasons, though, that people fall into this paralysis beyond just like not knowing where to start. They don't like their headshot. They don't know where to meet new people. What should I say when I call or text somebody? I don't have a social sphere. My social sphere is really, really low. Do I need to be working with my CRM? Should I buy leads? Like, all of these things fill our mind on a month-to-month basis and create stops, right? And so for some of you, you've got a very consistent business. I know a lot of people on this call have been in the business for 10 plus years. And so you've made it past that initial failure rate of the 5-year mark. But if you're not there yet, this is something that we really need to kind of lean into, okay? And again, if you have questions, please jump in. One of the things I want to reiterate is that if you don't have a plan, one of the best things that you can do is just begin. Start calling people, start reaching out to people. How many people on this call believe that digital outreach, whether it be text message, whether it be a Facebook message, whether it be something that's digital communication, email, how many people believe that they can still get conversions from digital communication today? Please let me see it in the chat. I'm going to pull up our chat to make sure I can see you guys as well. Yes. And we're gonna talk about digital leads here pretty quick too, Colin. And yes, Wayne, we are recording. Frida, yes. Joyce, yes. Mike Rivers, it's possible, okay? So I do believe that people, they see digital communication as an easy means of conversation, right? And so when we look at and we line up phone calls, text messages, emails across the board, what you're going to find is actually a lot of sporadic stats. Nothing that really shows a correlation of like what gets the best response. And I'm going to talk about why we see that here in a minute. Now, over 90% of buyers and consumers, when surveyed, say that they want to be followed up with. Now, keep this in mind, follow up with. That means I was already interested in, but you want to be now continuing the conversation. You'd like to be followed up with via digital means. So whether that be text, WhatsApp, however that the conversation might have procured in the first place, they want to be followed up with via digital means, over 90% of consumers, okay? But take into consideration that 10 years ago, maybe even 20 years ago, when some of you guys got into the business, if you got a text message, it was probably a part of maybe 4 or 5 text messages you get in an entire day. If you got a phone call, it might be 4 or 5 phone calls that you got in an entire day, right? Maybe you got an office line that rang a little bit more, but your email box wasn't full. You didn't have social media back then, right? And so nowadays, if you fast forward, especially an active user on their cell phone, they're getting text messages, robo messages. They're getting phone calls, they're getting robo phone calls, they're getting WhatsApp. You've got Instagram, Facebook, TikTok notifications, LinkedIn notifications, any other app that they might use for work like Slack or Asana or something of that nature. They're getting berated by constant notifications of communications all day long, right? And so we used to say that, you know, this is the best communication type, or this is the best communication type to get responses from people. What we've learned is that no singular communication type, when it comes to prospecting, is actually better than another. In fact, the best way to communicate now is what's called multiple modalities, multiple mediums. And so let's just take in, for instance, let's say you got a call list of 10 people for a day, right? My recommendation is to call all 10 people. Boom, 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 boom. The likelihood that you're going to get someone on a phone call is actually low. But the serious part about a phone call is the voicemail, because I can convey emotion, I can convey a complex message, I can convey a multiple issue type message, and it's going to deliver then an additional notification. So not only do they get the phone call notification, they get the voicemail notification, right? I'm then going to follow up with that list of 10 people with 10 text messages. These are what we call bumpers in the marketing world, right? So a bumper is something that basically alludes to something else I already did with you. And so that text message just might say, hey, Ron, just left you a voicemail. Would love to talk about your property. That's it. They know what the context is. They know that I left them a voicemail. They know that they see the missed call. There's something about the human psychology when they've missed 3 notifications from a person that actually creates just a little bit more guilt than the normal missed notification. And so if I miss an email from you, or I miss a text message from you, and I get to the end of the day, I go, oh, I missed their text message. I'm not going to text message them back. And then the next day I get busy, etc. But if I missed I missed a phone call from you, I got a voicemail from you, and I missed a text message from you, I have a little higher probability to actually return your phone call or get back to you. It increases a little bit of guilt. Do I think a video call would help if I get a voicemail? Sure, it could, right? And those are the things that I want you guys to start to explore. And I think that's a great question, right? Like, how can I create more of an abundance of like a mixed medium type outreach? Because I'll tell you, if you just look at 10 outreaches per day, and realistically, the magic number is 7. Like, that's how low it is 7. If you do 7 outreaches every single day, 5 days a week, that's 35 outreaches. Again, raw numbers, it shows growth, a growth line within prospecting and trade, right? And so 7 is really what you should be striving for as far as consistency, because keep in mind, there's going to be days where you can make 20. There's going to be days where you are just chaotic and you still need to get in those 7. So 7 would be the average if we're looking at it. Does that make sense? Okay. Let me just make sure I didn't miss any other questions. I'd love to know who buys leads and what companies provide good leads. I'll talk about this here in just a second, Colin. And this will be good for Chase and Nomita as well. Any questions so far though, just about sphere of influence? Pretty good so far? Okay.
Yeah, when you
What-
say 7, do you mean actual phone calls or do you mean conversations with people?
I mean contact outreaches, and what that means for me is multiple medium outreaches. Knowing that out of 35 outreaches, if I just did, let's say, text, I'm going to get a low conversion or response rate. But if I use multiple mediums, so whether that be the combination of the phone with voicemail and text, or a video text, or a video call, if I mix that up, it increases my probability and increases my conversion of return phone calls, which also increases my conversation number. So if I'm doing a good mixed modality, 7 is a pretty good target number to stay consistent with. Knowing that on days where I have more time, I want to increase that number, because there's going to be days where I'm chaotic and I'm going to probably have less than the 7 outreaches, right? And so for some people, they say, well, Mike, what is the magic number with my sphere of influence? Look at your sphere of influence for a second. I will say this, if you don't have your list put into your CRM, or at least put into an Excel sheet where you can pull up every single day and immediately have the contact information of your next 10 people, where you have notes of like when the last time was that you contacted them and how you know them, etc. It is the biggest under-missed or undermined stopgap I've ever seen in sales. Because here's what will happen for some of you. You have a good social sphere, you have good social habits. You'll spend 2 hours not knowing it, but you will spend 2 hours searching, scrolling. Who should I follow up with today? Who should I call today? Now let me find their contact information. Your brain will feel like you did more than you've really done in the outreach category. And so you've got to have that list prepared. And I don't care if it takes you a week, guys, this is how important this is. Export your contacts with your phone, export your Gmail, export your LinkedIn. There's a third-party app that can help you export your Facebook. Get it all into one big spreadsheet, right? Spend a few days then actually filling in and researching the missing information, because you want to be able to run with this stuff. It shouldn't take me more than 20 minutes, guys, to go through 10 outreaches. 20 minutes, tops, right? That's even if I land a phone call from somebody. And so one of the things that I find that salespeople really get bogged down with is they're like, I don't know who to call yet, or I don't know who I called, or when did I call them, or how long should it be between my phone calls? I want to try to target to get to every person in my sphere of influence every 45 to 60 days. 45 to 60 days. Now, in your mind as a salesperson, that might feel like a lot, but here's what I want you to think about. Do you know who called you 45 days ago? You don't. You wouldn't remember it. And I'll tell you what, if I heard from one of my friends every 45 days, it would feel like I'm only hearing from them every couple of months. It's not a lot. Like, it won't feel like you're really knocking down people's doors. But what it does provide you the ability to do is that when you are wheelhousing through your sphere of influence, it allows you to make those calls business calls, right? Not this mixed call. In fact, some of you have a real tough time with this, where you call and you're like, oh, hey, I haven't talked to you in a while. So you feel obligated to check in about the family or the business, or how are things going? Nope, this is a business call. I can do that at my networking event. I can see you at a family function. I can see you at the PTA, and I can be a normal person and I can pour into you. But when you hit my list for reach outs, it is all real estate. It is all value. It is all me trying to serve a purpose for you, right? It is a business call. Don't be shy to make your outreaches business calls, because that transition between like, oh, hey, how's the day going? Well, I'm busy at work. How's your day going? You don't need that, right? Especially if you get consistency with your sphere of influence, okay? And we'll talk about what to say here in a minute. Other questions with that, or any comments with that?
Yeah. So,
Hi, Nomita.
hi. So when you said it's a business call, is it okay when you're leaving a message? Hi, this is so and so. This is a business call. Want to talk to you about something, or just can you call me back? How do you go about that?
100%. I want to be as clear as possible, guys. There's no beating around the bush that I want to talk about real estate. So it's not like I want to surprise you, right? The person who's interested in talking about real estate is going to call me back. That's okay, right? Think about it this way. Let's say you got 500 people in your sphere of influence. I hope that through the next, several rounds of phone calls, that 300 of them block you from their phone. because they're not interested in what you have. They're not interested in talking to you in this capacity. They're not interested, because then what it does, it allows you to focus on who's really truly in your sphere of influence, where then your calls have context and it's people that want to hear from you, right? Be as honest, upfront, and you as possible when it comes to your business and when it comes to your intention. You don't need to surprise anybody. You don't need to trick anybody. You don't need to like make it sound like it's a different kind of phone call. I'm calling about real estate. If your mindset is around how can I serve you, you will never have a problem with this. If your mindset is about how do I convert you, you will constantly have a problem with this. Does that make sense?
Can you give us an example? How can I
Yeah.
serve you?
Yeah. So like, what do we talk about when it comes to conversations, right? And so we've got all these different ways that we convert people or that we conversate with people, from emails to newsletters to things of that nature. I'm just zoning in right now on like direct call, text messages, etc. Okay. What I don't want from people is just the generalized question about like, is there anything that you wanted to, ask me about real estate lately? Do you have any questions about the marketplace? Like, ask their opinion instead. Say, what's your opinion of the marketplace, right? Discuss the market, ask about real estate problems, ask about sales, inquire about investments. I love it when the question imposes something that's challenging. Like, has anybody ever taught you X? Ask them whether or not anybody else has ever discussed with them something about investments, something about tax advantages, something about the first of the year when it comes to how to read a report or something about their property, right? Has anybody ever explored this with you? Has anybody ever shared this with you? Has anybody talked about, like tax savings at the end of the year with you when it comes to real estate ownership, right? Again, my phone call is more about you as the consumer seeing me as a resource, as a knowledge point with real estate. And so I've got a whole bullet point, list here of things that you can kind of challenge yourself to do outreach with, but it should be service-based questions. My entire mindset is around serving you as a consumer, right? How can we do more with you? What can I do more with you? How can I provide you more service, more value, right? One of the cool conversations we got into this morning about referrals was the same thing, is keep in mind that when you're calling to talk about referrals with your current clients, it's okay to say, hey, is there anybody that you've talked with recently that, I might be able to help with real estate? Maybe that rings a bell for them, right? But most people don't think of their friendships or their conversations. They don't catalog it in their brain as someone who's interested in real estate. What they hear about are problems before someone actually hires a professional to solve those problems. So someone will talk about not being able to find financing or not having enough space in their home or really hating the apartment that they're in long before they get into the mode of like finding a real estate professional. If someone goes, oh, my friend's looking to buy a home, well, they probably know that because the friend said, I'm looking to buy a home, and they're already in transaction or motion with somebody. So you want to get to people at the problem level. And so when you talk about, hey, anybody that's struggled with, they hate their apartment or they hate their area or they don't have enough space or they've had this problem, whatever you feel like your expertise in solving or providing a solution is, those are the types of questions you want to engage with, because that will help your consumer or your sphere of influence access those conversations and those relationships quicker than just asking the, hey, do you know anybody that wants to buy and sell real estate, right? That's too salesy, okay? So those are the kinds of conversations I'd want to address. I do want to address the chat question around digital leads, okay? And I'll give some examples here too of like newsletter themes, quarterly campaigns, things that kind of keep your social sphere popping. But in context, look at your sphere of influence. And what I want you guys to picture is every time, let's use a figurative name. Let's say you've got a consumer by the name of Ron. When Ron wakes up in the morning, I want him to eventually see something about me on social media, right? And then I want him to receive something in the mail from me. That's like a personal piece. I want him then to see something maybe that's like something that's success related. Like I listed a property, I sold the property. I also want him to hear from me, text message, etc. Right? I want this kind of multiple modality communication to be hitting my consumers at all times, because there's this law called the law of recency. And what happens, and this is the reason why agents who have no experience can still jump into this business and be successful, is that the average consumer knows 7 to 8 licensed real estate professionals, right? And so because of that, if they own 7 to 8 licensed real estate professionals, what is it that makes them choose one over the other? Sure, sometimes it's this friend I don't trust or I would never do business with, but oftentimes they choose someone who has hit their actual conscious thought, like there's been a touch point within a 45-day window. The law of recency runs about 45 days. The first 15 days, it's really, really active. And from 15 to 45, it's still pretty active, which means I want to be consciously in front of my consumers within that 45-day window so that their brain goes, oh,
Ray from Truly Title.
oh, sorry, hold on, guys. I got somebody on mute. If you are on, thank you. So I want to be there, guys, so that I can constantly be in front of my consumers so that I stay top of mind. And the way to stay top of mind is constantly doing things. That's why we say post on social media. It's why we say send an email campaign, 12 months worth, right? Because I'm going to get an email. I'm going to see you on social media. I might get a mailer piece from you. Maybe I even get like a gift from you. And then I'm also about every 45 to 60 days getting a phone call or a text from you. That is the best way for my brain to constantly see you as a real estate professional. Okay. And I'll share the same stat I shared this morning. It takes 28 impressions for the mind to make a correlation of one thing to another. Right. So if I were to say squirrel, some of you think acorn. If I were to say cow, some of you think milk. If I were to say farm, you think of something else. There are correlations that your brain makes based on impressions. I want to think about real estate and think about you. I want to think about you and automatically think about real estate. It takes 28 correlations for my brain then to make that impression and go, oh, Mike Rivers in Boston. When I see Mike, I think real estate. When I think about real estate, I immediately think about Mike, right? That takes a long time to create if I'm only doing it on reach outs, guys. And that's why these other communications are important, okay? Let's talk digital leads for just a few minutes real quick. Because I know it's a hot item on people's lists. Digital leads, they have a unique return on investment, but it does require the kind of mindset that is not for the average person. And I'll tell you why. Go back to that statistic that the average consumer knows 7 to 8 licensed real estate agents. So if that is true, how did they end up inside Zillow? How did they end up on that lead list? How did they end up on your phone number, right? If they knew someone in real estate, 7 to 8 people within their social sphere, how did they end up to you? Because you're not first. I can promise you that. And there are unique situations that obviously are not the context of this conversation. But the point is that they likely already went to their social sphere. They got a no, or they got there's a problem, or they didn't get what they wanted fast enough. And so you're dealing with someone who's already now trying to avoid advice. Like that's how they get into these lead systems. They're like, oh, I'm just going to do it on my own. I'm going to just search property on my own. I'm just going to try to get into this property myself, right? I want to show this property. I want to see this property. So instead of calling one of their friends who says, okay, well, let's talk about pre-qual. Are you pre-qual yet? They're like, no, and I want to go in today. Instead, they jump right on Zillow and they get one of you on the phone. And now you're dealing with someone who doesn't want to get pre-qualified, isn't pre-qualified, but just wants to see a property, right? So what does that mean for the digital world? Well, that means is that the majority of the leads that come through digital channels, they need to be basically reworked. They need to be repurposed because what they're asking for is most likely not accomplishable and or is problematic in itself, meaning they've already made an offer on the property and they didn't like the person who made the offer. So now they called you to make an offer. Right? So you have to have the mindset first, if you're going to deal with digital leads, that they're going to have to be repurposed. You have to understand that, or you're going to feel like no one's qualified. You're going to feel like every single site out there, no matter how much you pay, is just filling you with bogus leads. They're not bogus leads. They just take more time. They actually take you having to avoid your normal pathway of logic. Because most of you, when you meet somebody who's interested in real estate, you want to sit down with them. You're like, okay, cool. Let's go and have a consultation. Let's go to a coffee shop. Come to my office. Most digital leads don't want to do that. They want to go see a property today, tomorrow. And if you're not willing to grant that access, they're going to bypass you. And so it takes kind of you going and wasting your time at a showing. That's your meeting in order to build the trust and really figure out what the problem is in order to be repurposed. And if you have that mindset, and this is going to be the long route to the answer here, any of your digital lead platforms can be successful, right? Zillow's digital lead platform, StreetEasy if you're in the city, OpCity, I don't even know what it's called now, Realtor Connect or Real Connect or whatever it is, Realtor.com's thing. All of those can be successful if you go into it with the mindset that this is going to be something I have to repurpose. Questions on that? And I know we're at time, so I do want to be respectful. If you guys have to go, you can go. If there are additional questions, I'll stay on and ask those or answer those. You can also jump on the 1:30, and we're going to also talk more about prospecting conversations and outreach and what's best and what's not best. So it'll be a continuation of this morning. You mean to repurpose it? Oh, what do you mean to repurpose it? Colin, what I mean by that is that likely what they want, is it possible? Like, oh, well, I want a 6,000 square foot home and I want to be able to find something that's, under $350,000. Right? It might be something that is what they're searching for isn't out there. It might be that the financing situation they have currently is prohibitive. They're like, oh, I'm a VA. It's like, okay, well, that's got a million restrictions, right? Or I told I could buy a condo. It's like, okay, yes, but most likely not like 90% of them that are on the market because they all have warrantability problems. So like you're going to have to do something with them in the beginning that helps earn their trust to get their business. That then you're going to have to actually change directions, and you're going to have to teach them how to change directions in order for them to actually be successful. That's the game of digital leads. The trick on converting digital leads, guys, is speed to contact. You got to be the first person to call them back. Speed to appointment. You got to be the first one to get them into the property, because most of them are buyer leads. First one to get them into a property that they want to see. It doesn't matter if they're pre-qualified or not. You just got to get them there. That's your meeting. That's your appointment. That's the time frame that you're going to get to quarantine them. So hopefully that makes sense.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah.
So great, because I've had that exact challenge the last couple months with these digital leads. What is your hook, though? Because I've even drawn it down to the basic fundamentals. Hey, we will have to sign a piece of paper. It's just to allow me to open up the door. That's still not even working. So what would your hook be for us on those digital leads? Because we now have to have that piece of paper to unlock the door.
Yeah, I mean, the piece of paper is a non-negotiable. It's not even it's not something I'm trying to convince you on. I'm providing it at the door. I'm just saying, listen, guys, this is an acknowledgement. This is X. I don't care if the piece of paper, guys, has to say a day. Keep in mind, your pieces of paper are oftentimes scary because they say 30 days, 90 days, 6 months, 1 year, right? That's what scares people. They're like, I don't know you. I just met you 3 seconds ago. I'm not signing something that says I got to use you for the next month. So do it for a day, 1 day. If you buy something today, right, you got to use me. Tomorrow it expires. So if you hate me tomorrow, it's expired. It at least starts to build the habit, right, of signing that document, signing some form of agreement. You make it short. It's the fastest way to get in the habit. And that's what we teach in negotiation environments as well, is short-term agreements build habits. And so with anybody who's had a problem with any form of buyer agency, buyer exclusive, buyer compensation, et cetera, most of the debate we get from consumers is time related. It's not value proposition. It's not, you got to tell them more about you. Like, I'm so sick of value proposition, guys. I'm going to go crazy over it. It's about timing, right? I'm going to make it short so that I'm not locking you into something long-term. And then it's about understanding the things that are problematic to them, right? Like, how does buyer commission get paid? I've got to be able to answer those questions and give them confidence that, okay, he understands that there's a couple different ways to work this so that I may not have a liability, right? But a lot of it is time relative. I don't know if that answered your question or not.
Mike?
Yeah.
I've got a ton of contacts that I brought into my, network in the past and have basically neglected, not kept in touch with for a very long time. What's a good way to kind of reconnect with those people?
I mean, I would put them right into your normal sphere of, like, you consider these people sphere of influence? Like, are they, even if they might not be someone who's a friend, they know
They're
you?
contacts. They're contacts. They know who I am, but I've never really developed much of a relationship with them.
And that's okay. It's okay to just have a professional relationship with people, right? Like, there are a lot of people on this planet that I wouldn't hang out with, that I wouldn't go to dinner with. But at the end of the day, if I have a business problem that is in their realm, they're on the book of people I want to reach out to and ask the question to. So the best you need, Rob, is just to reestablish that business connection that, hey, this is who I am, this is what I do, and here are the things that I can help with the most. The more specificity you can give on a niche, the easier it is for people to sift between you and 50 other real estate agents that are reaching out to them. Right? So, like, I know that you, based on your experience and even your location, right, you've got a diverse background, you've got a diverse skill set. When you're calling people, pick one of your best. Give them one or two things to remember you by. You know, when I was doing a lot of business, it's because I said, listen, I know how to get you financing for anybody that said no. That was who I was. I was the, if you've been told no and you haven't been able to win, come to me guy. Could I also do a million other things? Sure. But that's what I got known for. So with business contacts, we've got to stick it with something where they can say, okay, that's what Rob's for. Now, as they learn more about you, they obviously understand you can take care of all kinds of real estate needs. But that's a tough sell when they're not somebody who you've been massaging for years and years and years. So pick one thing, one topic that you know you're great about that you can start to establish your new business connection with them on.
Thanks.
Yep. All right, guys.
Okay. So are we,
Go ahead.
is the 9:30 call will be the same content? Are we doing role playing?
So the 9:30, what we're doing right now with these calls, because I know you guys are used to role-playing situations. Parag asked me to talk about prospecting in general. And so what we did on the 9:30 call was we talked about what avenues people find the most successful for themselves. We talked a lot about referrals. We talked a lot about referral conversations. We're going to be doing the exact same thing at the 12:30 slot today.
Yeah, on, well, California, it's 9:30. That's right.
Sorry, I'm sorry, guys. I'm trying
I
to
know.
adjust what's on.
Yeah, I'm
12:30
sorry.
Eastern time. It's the
Yes.
next call for me, and that's what we're going to be talking about.
So that's 9:30 here. Okay.
Okay, guys.
See you
Excellent.
later.
Thank you guys so much for coming out. Enjoy your Monday. If I don't see you later in the day, talk to you guys soon.
Thank you.